welcome back to our transformation series by Paragon Solstice. My name is Emily Rentas. I'm the owner and founder of Paragon Solstice Incorporated, a coaching and consulting company focusing on transformation and resilience in your life, business, or organization. Today, I have the opportunity to interview Trish, who is based in Canada and is a energy integration coach. She has lots of information and stories and kind of tips and tricks and just sharing her personal story about her own transformation and resilience that led her to the journey of becoming a coach. Thank you, Trish, for joining us today. I'm so excited to just hear your story and just really understand what brought you to where you are. I know that you have a mission to heal corporate leaders and really focus on how they're managing their day-to-day and their energy, and just understanding that because you've lived through that, right, Trish?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about your journey and where you're at and how that's looking for you nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in IT for 27 years. I launched the first internet service provider in Canada and actually ended up taking that public as well. And I was a project manager. I mean, that's kind of in my DNA, to be honest. So no matter what role I have, I kind of play that role to a degree. But early in my career, it was really, type A personality, perfectionism, 14-hour days, just driving it, right? Getting it done and that type of thing. And in 98, I was diagnosed with a condition called scleroderma and told I had 7 years to live. So it was like, whoa, okay. And I do believe that I manifested that. I do believe that that was a function of just that much stress on the body. Driving at that pace, it's just not sustainable. So I basically I refused all medications, actually. Something inside of me instinctively just said, no, don't go down that path. And so I ended up having to go down a whole other path before we had access to the information we do now around natural healing and things of that nature. So I kind of carved my own path, as it were, and still here and feel fantastic. So kudos for that. But yeah, that's a really quick overview of the journey for you.
So Trish, the discussion, the part that you said, I manifested that. Tell us a little bit about what you believe in regards to manifesting things in our lives and situations and illnesses and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what led you to believing that this had happened, because you manifested it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is my personal belief. So this doesn't make it fact, right? Let's be clear about that. So I believe that we can set ourselves up for dis-ease just by our lifestyle, right? Poor food, poor not exercising, things of that nature. However, how that manifests, I believe, is a function of where you are emotionally and spiritually. And when I talk about, setting ourselves up, 80% of the North American population suffers from some form of disease. Only 2 to 5% of those are genetic. So where are the rest of them coming from, right? That becomes the interesting question for me. So I honestly believe, for me personally, I had a closed heart, right? And scleroderma is a very restrictive condition. So I believe that I manifested that because that's where I was emotionally and spiritually. I was very closed off. And so the more that I learned to open myself up and the more that I learned to live with an open heart, the more that I discovered that I was on this healing journey and moving back to a space of reclaiming my health.
So what helped you to open your heart and to realize this needed to be done in order to really just heal your body?
Yeah, that's a lot of work. Let's be real. Going back, forgiveness is huge. The one that a lot of people don't want to step into, but is also significant, is surrender. Right. So surrendering your need to be right, surrendering the ego, surrendering, handing things over to whatever higher power you believe in, just letting go of your need to try to control what's happening. So that's, I think forgiveness is definitely the first step. There's no question. Taking ownership and responsibility for your health is also huge, right? Like, that's, and being willing to go back to, childhood or wherever your traumas live and explore those and really kind of dive deep and It doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to be long. Like it's, it can just, but continuing to ignore it, right? I call it NTA, noise to avoid. People create all this drama in their lives so that they don't have to actually allow that stuff to come forward, right? So when they can get quiet and that can come up and they actually allow it to come out and emerge, that's when the healing begins, right? Continuing to push it down, from my perspective, given my own reality and experience, is that's where you're going to run into a whole host of problems.
When you were in this journey, and we're always still in our journey regardless, but when you, in the beginning stages of it, when did you start realizing that you were truly healing? What would you say are some of the signs and kind of indications that what you were doing was working?
Well, I mean, they were very physical, very physical. So I was probably taking 10 to 12 Advil a day for pain. If I got down on one knee, I couldn't get back up. I had 24/7 heartburn. I had scleroderma. If you look into it, they call it the stone face disease, because your skin on your face and in your hands and things of that nature, I couldn't make a fist, right? My face was very tight. And so it was very physical. So, it had expanded up to my shoulder, the tightness in the skin. All of a sudden now my skin is loose all the way. And this is years ago, right? Because I've been on this journey, like I don't even worry. I don't even think about it anymore. Right. And the other thing that's really important that I want to share here, I never said I had it. Ever. I never took ownership of that diagnosis. I say I was diagnosed with. I never say I had it, ever. Like those words never actually passed my lips. And I don't know, that again, that was instinctual, but it became important over time. So, my face started to loosen, I did end up with some scar tissue and that type of thing. So very physical manifestations. And then basically it was like, okay, well, I have, the heartburn's gone, as I start to look into food and things of that nature. So there's a whole bunch of very physical, real world results that came from choosing to step into that heart opening, but also choosing to do very tactical things like eating food that's good for me and making sure that I'm exercising regularly.
The power of language that you mentioned there, in the part where you mentioned, you didn't say that you had it. You didn't give it power, that you owned it. You said, yes, this did happen. Somebody gave me this diagnosis, but I'm not going to say I have it. What are some other methods in the power of language that you often find for yourself and others in your work with your clients, that you notice that people tend to give their power away in their language?
Well, I think, and it's, I hate to say this because, I think support is really important for people, but it has to be the right kind of support, right? So for example, early days when I looked into support groups around this, first and foremost, they actually asked me not to participate because I wasn't following the traditional medical road, right? So they didn't want other people to have any idea about what I was doing. So that was the first piece. But then the other piece was, even if I did participate in like an online forum or something of that nature, there was so much victim mentality in there, right? Like there was so much, this is happening to me, and people just complaining about the misery of the life that they're leading. And I chose just not to have any part of that. Like I didn't want that energy, right? So even the energy you surround yourself with is as important as the language that you choose to use, right? Who are you surrounding yourself with? So I do think support is really important. From my perspective, it has to be the right kind of support. It has to be support that supports your choices, and that is helping you, and it is lifting you up, right? Not pulling you down. So I think from my perspective, there's a lot of places where, even my family, they were very supportive of what I was doing. And so that became a real lodestone for me, right? Foundation, where I knew that I could count on them to support my choices, which is very important to me, right? But not everybody has that.
Yeah. And talking about the right support that you said, you were looking for the support, but then you started finding spaces that didn't accommodate your views, the approach that you were using. And you immediately said to yourself, this is not the place for me. I'm not going to fit into this group just to be accepted, just to be allowed to just share my experience. I'm going to go to where I am accepted, where I am supported. That's so powerful regarding, when we're going through our journeys, understanding who we're surrounding ourselves with. So with this experience that you had, and just healing, what what led you to your mission of healing corporate leaders one at a time, and understanding how important healing is for the corporate world?
Yeah. And a big part of this is really, while there will be healing for the leaders for sure, it's about really healing the environment, right? Because, and so what I want to do is I want to enable and empower leaders, corporate leaders, to take ownership of a skill they already have that they're really not leveraging, right? And this is so important to me because stress in the body is toxic, right? And why is it that when somebody chooses to go off and do whatever they want to do in the world that gives them joy, or the job that they got, whatever pays their bills, like whatever it is that drives you to show up every day, why should you have to show up and be miserable? Because you have terrible leadership. And the big trigger for me in all this was COVID, where we saw the devastating impacts for individuals, families, communities, and even the economy of poor leadership, right? This was huge. I've known it for years. I've been in corporate for my entire career, and I know there's poor leadership out there, and yet we just accept it as being okay, right? The old school model, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to put a bunch of labels on it, but the net of it is, people get a promotion because they've been around for a long time. That doesn't make them a great leader, right? So, and not only that, we saw amazing people step up into leadership spaces who never had a title throughout COVID, right? So this is no longer okay. This is no longer okay for us to have corporate environments where people are miserable because leaders are not actually stepping into their leadership space. They're just wearing their titles. So the tools that I provide for them, as an energy integration coach, is to really help them to develop a skill they already have. It's their intuition. It's using energy, right? Creating so much positive energy in your team. It's not running around going rah, 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 although I kind of sort of do that sometimes, but it's creating so much positive energy within your team. I've literally seen where people who choose to be in their victim negative mentality and not want to move out of that, right? I've seen people who see the other side and they're like, wow. And I've seen amazing transformations, right? When you hold the space for that positive capability. I've seen others who are like, no, I like my miserable life, and they will choose to leave an organization. I didn't even have to get rid of them. They chose to leave because they literally cannot tolerate that much positivity. It's like great, right? So it's like
cleaning oven. It just cleans itself.
Exactly right. It's self-cleaning oven. So leaders have this capability. Like, I'm not giving them anything they don't already have. I'm just helping them to uncover and refine it and hone that superpower, because you know what? The ripple effect is massive. If everybody could show up at work every day and love what they do and love work and love being part of their team being successful and love contributing to the organization's success, and they can't wait to get to work, we can change the world. Like, literally, we will change the world. So that's my passion piece for sure. In case you couldn't tell.
You touched on a really important piece. The misery and the state of negativity that a lot of folks stay in at work. And what I've seen in corporate environments is that there's like an unsaid culture that that work is supposed to be hard, right? Work is supposed to be kind of this rough time kind of energy, and that if you have any inclination that you're having fun, you're not working hard enough, right?
Yep.
There must be something wrong. If you're making things look easy, you're not doing it right. That it has to be this drudgery and complexity of the work. And what would you say is what fosters that culture that things have to be hard and serious all the time, and kind of there's in places where there's no laughter. I get worried when I don't hear laughter in places. If people are not laughing, there's a big red flag.
Right.
So what would you say is what contributes to those environments of the culture of thinking that everything has to be serious and drudgery? What do you think is feeding into that?
I think it's historical. Like, I think we just have, we've been conditioned to believe no different than you can't make money if you don't work hard. Yeah. You can't get a good job if you don't have an education. Like, we have these beliefs, right? I can tell you, when we launched, the first ISP in Canada, I laughed so hard most days that my stomach hurt. Like, my stomach muscles hurt, right? And my face would be like aching. It was hysterical, and we were like a total high performance team. Like, and to the point where I assumed that's what every workplace was, right? Because it was my first real, big job. And when I couldn't find it again, I was like, well, frig this, I'm going to go create my own. And I've created 6 high performance teams. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't laugh ever, right? Our team laughs, even when it's hard. Doesn't mean you're not doing the work, right? So this whole, old school leadership mentality, all about the numbers and whatever else, I think Richard Branson's the one who says that, take care of your employees and that'll take care of everything else. You'll see the numbers.
Yeah.
Like my results, I have hardcore KPIs. I still work in IT. I have hardcore KPIs that tell the story that a high performance team is absolutely knocking it out of the park. And I have hard evidence to show it time and time again, both in terms of the feedback that we get from staff on their surveys that they do for us, as well as just the data. So 100 times over, I will pit myself and a high performance team that laughs and has fun and is in flow against somebody who's just driving it out, 14-hour days any day of the week. Bring it.
I absolutely agree. And I think that what happens also is that when you do prove folks wrong, that your way does work, it kind of doesn't sit very well with some folks because you've proven them wrong and they don't like to be wrong. And because they thought that their motto and their way of doing things. So when and I've seen this, and I've had personal experience too, where if you've proven somebody wrong and you've actually been able to pivot or done something, it totally goes against their mantra and their kind of, and then there's also, like you mentioned, accepting responsibility, like, okay, accepting that there is a new, different way, and maybe it's time to change the guard and kind of change that environment. So it really just goes back to your attitude and the conditioning, like you mentioned. And this conversation has been so great regarding the corporate environment and really understanding that when you invest in your people, that they will do good work. When you treat them in a humane, respectful, pleasurable environment where folks are actually getting together and talking, and not even just that, but when they're having conflicts, that they can actually, conflicts are okay. You have to resolve them. Like there's no perfect relationship ever. If you're ignoring the elephant in the room, that conflict will never be solved. So Trish, I know that you also have a book called The Question Journey. Can you tell us a little bit about what that work looks like and what motivated you to just creation this journey of questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was when I stepped out of corporate. So for a while, I realized I had an adrenaline addiction, which was not helping things. And so I did step out for a short period of time. And so this idea just kind of came to me. Like, I'm going to call it a download, because it literally, the idea was super simple. When it came to me, it was people need to stop looking outside of themselves for their answers. And they need to, they're looking outside of themselves because they don't like the answer that they know in here, right? And so the more that they can tap into their own truth, the faster that they can heal, right? So it is a book of questions. So it literally, it literally, if you open it up, there's beautiful artwork. There's a powerful question. It's not a read book, right? Because people have so little time right now. They're like, a book? Oh my God, please don't make me read a book, right? You don't have to read this book. It's a workbook. Think of it that way, right? Yeah. So I tell people, there's not even page numbers on it, which I know drives people crazy, which was by design, right?
Oh,
so,
wow.
Right? Because those OCD people, which I was one, right? It would just drive them crazy. So it's open it up randomly, see what question pops out for you today, sit with it, see what emerges, and allow whatever comes up to come up. Don't keep pushing it down, right? Just allow yourself the space and the gift to allow it to come out of the body in whatever way that it's meant to do. So that's kind of just a quick hit on the question journey.
That's so great. And for those who are watching, the information on Trish and how you can contact her and learn more about her is in the description box, as well as information from to how to purchase and get the book. I'm so excited to to know that people are going to be watching this, and the things that you're talking about, I hope it really just resonates for folks regarding their own healing journey, personal responsibility, the language that you use in circumstances, and also the support systems that are around you, and being very mindful about that and how they contribute to your own healing journey. So thank you, Trish. This has been an amazing conversation.
Oh, thank you so much,
Success and
Emily.
blessings to you in your business.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.